This is the waveform that I'm actually going to be feeding into the radio. It's actually a 455 kilohertz signal, which is AM modulated by a 1000 hertz sine wave at 30%. This is how it looks with modulation, and here I'm going to turn the modulation off. That's the difference right there. When I actually set the frequency up to come out of my signal generator, I used my counter, my frequency counter, which is integrated into my multimeter to measure the frequency, and I had to do that unmodulated, because if you do it like modulated, it's the counter. The counter is going to be reading off. That's based on my practical experience. So I'm actually going to be using my Leader LSG16 signal generator. I've got it set up right around, it's kind of hard to see, it's right around 455 right there. Looks like it's the marker's a tiny bit off, but I guess that's to be expected with this old equipment. So I got my leads from the audio generator hooked up to a little wire loop that I made here, and that's basically gonna radiate the signal to here, which is the AM antenna. Actually, I could have just used, I think, 1 or 2 loops. I just used this roll that I had laying around. I didn't want to cut it, so I just used it, basically used all of it. But I think if you use like a single loop or 2 loops, or it really doesn't make a difference. I have my dummy load hooked up to the external speaker outputs, and I'm going to go ahead and connect an AC voltmeter across one of these channels to monitor the adjustments I'll be making. I've got the radio turned on. I've got the volume controls at maximum, and I have the radio set on for AM reception. And according to the service manual, I'm supposed to adjust the IFs first, then the band coverage, and then the tracking. So I'll start out with the IFs first, and I'm supposed to adjust the dial. It's supposed to be set to the high end, and of course I gotta adjust for maximum output. So I'm gonna come over here, adjust the dial to the high end, and next I gotta figure out where my adjustment points are at. So I noticed when I put this radio in the AM setting, I was only able to get a total of 3 stations. So I'm going to see if an alignment makes a little bit of a difference. I don't really know anybody that listens to AM anyways, and I suspect maybe the alignment won't make much of a difference. Maybe it's just because there's not very many radio stations that broadcast with AM nowadays. That might be the problem there too. There's actually a couple of, you can do AM alignment. This has long wave and has short wave. You can do those alignments, and of course FM. FM sounds fine, so I think I'm going to go ahead and leave that alone. I'm just going to go ahead and fiddle around with the AM alignment. a little bit and see if I can get more stations in. I was able to get 3 stations at night, and in the daytime I was able to get, I think it was 1 station. So I'll see how it goes. Okay, in order to do the AM IF alignment, you're supposed to adjust the IF transformers T3 and T4. I think that's T3 and that's T4 for a maximum output on the AC voltmeter. It also looks like somebody has been in this unit before. Somebody made a mark right there. I guess somebody did an alignment before, maybe like, at least it looks like a mark. It must have been like a really long time ago. And in fact, I made little marks myself. So I was able to note the original position. Now I'm going to go ahead and adjust these IF transformers. What I'm looking for is maximum output on my AC voltmeter. So here's what happens when I go ahead and do the adjustments. Of course, I'm using a non-ferrous alignment tool. I'm adjusting now for maximum. I'm using this thing right here, which has a ceramic tip, and I'm going to keep doing the adjustment. Okay, that's about maximum here on this transformer. You know, when I turn it, it goes up to a certain point, and then if I keep turning, it goes down. And if I go the other way, it goes down too. So I'm adjusting for maximum, and now I'm going to go ahead and do the transformer on the bottom. Same thing here. Okay. So now I'm going to redo the top, see if that makes any difference. The top transformer, I mean. And so I think I'm going to go ahead and leave it at that. I don't think I can get it better than that. So that was that. That was my first adjustment. That was my IF adjustment. My next adjustment, which is the band coverage, is supposed to be done at 510 kilohertz. Again, I shut off the internal modulation to make sure I was at 510 kilohertz. Now I'm going to go ahead and turn it back on. And then I'm supposed to set the dial indicator of the unit to 500, at the low end of the dial, which I already did. Now I'm going to go ahead and hook up the generator to the loop antenna that I made, and then go ahead and make my next adjustment. I'm supposed to adjust the oscillation coil, which is L9, and that would be this one right here. this red one. Again, I have the output of my signal generator turned down pretty low, just enough to get a response on the AC voltmeter. I'm going to go ahead and start adjusting now. I'm going to go ahead and make this adjustment now. Again, I have the audio generator turned down really low, just as much as needed so I can get a response here on my voltmeter. I'm going to go ahead and start turning this now, making the adjust with my okay. Once I reach a certain point, it starts going back down again, so I'm adjusting for maximum. I think I'm going to leave it at that and go to my next adjustment. For my next adjustment, which is still band coverage, I'm supposed to go all the way the other way. The dial setting is supposed to be at the high end. And I need to adjust the audio, my RF generator, for 1650 kilohertz. Now I readjusted my RF generator output for 1650 kilohertz. I got the modulation off, and now I'm going to go ahead and turn it back on, do my hookups, and then go ahead and adjust. I think it is TC7. It looks like TC7 is right here, so I'm going to go ahead and do that adjustment now. So I'm getting ready to do the adjustment, and that's obviously not helping. I'm thinking I'm going to go the other way, and looks like I went past the maximum point. This seems to be like the maximum point right about there, so that's that. My next step is to adjust the tracking. That's, for example, if your station broadcasts at, let's say, 96, you know, like when they say, oh, this is station so-and-so at 96.0 or whatever, and you're tuned to that station, but your indicator here is, let's say, on 98. That's what your tracking adjustment does. It makes both the same. I'm going to have to go ahead and skip, looks like the first step of that, which is adjusting the antenna coil, which is this right here. You're supposed to slide this in and out and use a piece of ferrite and a piece of brass to make that adjustment. You're supposed to slide this in and out, but it looks like they got hot wax on here, so I'm not even going to go ahead and mess with that. I'm just going to go ahead and do the second part of that adjustment, which is adjusting the high end of the dial. I'm supposed to go ahead and set the RF generator to 1400 kilohertz and the dial indicator here to 1400 kilohertz, and then adjust the antenna trimmer TC4 for maximum. I gotta go ahead and search for that. Okay, I've got the RF generator set up to put out 1400 kilohertz, and to you see it on my frequency counter, I shut off the internal modulation. Now I'm going to go ahead and turn it back on and turn the RF output down again. In order for me to get a reading with my frequency counter, I always have to turn the RF output up, otherwise the counter won't register. Of course, for this adjustment, you're supposed to have your RF generator turned down as much as possible. So I found out where the TC4 is at, which is, I believe, right there. Now I'm going to go ahead and hook up the RF generator again and go ahead and make my last adjustment. Okay, one thing I do have to do is set this to 1400 kilohertz. I'm on TC4 now. I'm going to go counterclockwise. First, see what happens. Okay, that's definitely going the wrong way, since my needle's going down. Now I'm going to go the other way. Okay, once I reach a certain point, it's not going past that. So I'm going to go ahead and leave it alone right there. That concludes my AM alignment.